Good afternoon and welcome to Flat Earth United. Today we're going to be discussing the current nonsense that's in the news, and joining me live via Skype is Martin Liedtke. How are you doing, Martin?
Oh, superb. Thank you for inviting me, Nathan. It's great to see you again. Thanks.
It's a real pleasure, Martin. Good to have you here. I've said to give us a couple of minutes just to sort of launch into what's been going on, but I might forego that and just get straight into it rather than boring people with the details of my loss of internet and such like. So maybe you can start us. The plan is to go with the official narrative and explain to the audience currently how things are being presented in terms of this complete nonsense. So maybe if we can start there, Martin, that'd be great.
Okay, well, my starting point, because it's so fluid and ongoing, is I'll just reel it back to 7705. Well, you all know about that attack. Well, this was exactly the same MO as what you see now. Well, you all know the official narrative with that. Well, we'll move on from there. Now, you come up to the present day, this year alone, I'm going to cover. It's going to fill an entire show with just this year alone. But even building up to...
Looks like we've lost Martin. Let's just give him a quick ring back. Hopefully a minor technical issue, we shall see.
Drop a second, but we're back.
Yeah, I've got you back again, Martin. Wonderful. So yeah, if you can start, as I say, with the official narrative and just go through exactly how you see it, if you will.
Okay, well, I'll just go from this year because basically there's been so many of these attacks in the last, say, 2 years that it would take all day to cover them. So I'll just go with the more recent ones that are still fresh in our memory, okay? So you get the Manchester Arena, okay? Well, that wasn't too long ago. That was just back in June. Well, they say in the Manchester Arena, government narrative, is a man turns up, blows himself up in the foyer of the concert of Adrian Grande, blown himself up, and many people killed. The estimations are somewhere in the region of 20 odd, but they don't really know. Any pictures of this? No, not really, but I'll get there in a minute. So this is the official government narrative. What they tell you, ISIS have said that they're responsible. So this is what they class as a terror attack. Okay, well, they go on then. So you get the, obviously the one in Times Square, but I'll just focus on the British ones because they're going to fill up enough of a narrative. So then you get up to Westminster Bridge. Famous tourist attraction. Okay, Eleanor? A famous tourist attraction, probably as famous as Times Square. Something that everyone will know about. Apparently the narrative is a driver drives up onto the pavement on Tower Bridge, rams at least 20 people and killing them, jumps out, charges himself like just the one-man army, charges Parliament and gets shot dead by a guard at the gate. So that is the official narrative of Westminster Bridge. Well, you come a week or two later, London Bridge, another real well-known tourist attraction. Everybody knows the London Bridge is falling down, so that's in the psyche. So what's their official narrative? Well, exactly the same MO. Somebody goes across Vauxhall Bridge, London Bridge, ramming people and killing them. He gets to Vauxhall Market across the other side of the river on the south bank of the River Thames, and he kills a load of people in the market. But apparently in the Vauxhall Bridge there were 3 perps. They'll show you the pictures of these perps, but they don't actually look like real people. They look like CGI overlaid computer generations. But we'll get there later. This is the government official narrative. Well then, the biggest tragedy of all happens.
I may have to forego sharing screens with Martin, so he may not get to see me, but I'll just give him a quick call back. Hopefully I'll stop tying up his bandwidth by sharing my screen, and that'll keep him with us rather than losing him continually. So hopefully we'll get Martin back in just a few moments. You back with us, Martin?
Okay, cool.
I'll stop sharing screens with you, so you won't get to see me, but it'll hopefully tie up a bit less of bandwidth.
That's fine. I'm fine just like this, actually, Nathan. Fine, thanks. And then you come up to the, which is not exactly a terrorist attack, but it's still part of the narrative of what I believe is going on. The Grenfell Tower fire. This is something that I need to go into a little bit later. But the official government narrative on the Grenfell fire is they managed to see a broken pipe in a freezer in a flat on the 4th floor, which caused the fire, killing, the official figure is 79 dead and many more casualties, okay? But that's not what people are saying in the neighbourhood. They're saying somewhere in the region of 700 to 1,000, maybe more. Nobody knows. So, but I'll get into the what's going on with that, because that needs a little bit of attention further along. Because I've had some private encounters with this Grenfell, and there's quite a lot come out. So I'll cover that a bit later. Now, the last week, really really interesting. You get to Finsbury. Now, I made a post coming up to the Finsbury attack the evening before saying, well, this is great. All we need now is a racially motivated attack. 4 hours later, there was a racially motivated attack. Although, the night of then, the BBC are announcing as their official narrative, a jihadist attack. Now, the official narrative is Finsbury Park, a terrorist who's looking at this morning, he's been to court, attempted murder, terror acts, etc., etc. Well, the guy's a white Christian from Weston-super-Mare originally, but he lives in my city of Cardiff. He hired a van locally, 1 mile away from where I live now. He drove it all the way to London, waited for all of the people to come out of a religious ritual, which is Ramadan, which is the end of Ramadan, which is a real big deal to these people. They haven't ate for weeks. So they have a ritual, they come out, and apparently this guy rams into them, running a load of them over, gets out, stabs one person to death. They jump on him, apparently, government narrative. The police turn up, drag this man away and save him, and then put him in the back of the van, and he's taken away. That's the government narrative, okay? But that's not what I've witnessed and what I've seen and what I've picked up. So that's only a couple of days ago. So it gets fluid and fast from there. The next day, you get Paris. Apparently, a lone driver in a car packed with...
Sorry about this, folks. We are definitely having some technical issues with Martin. Not going to call conspiracy just yet, but we'll just try and get him repeatedly back. If this continually happens, we'll perhaps give up.
Okay, I wonder what they see in chat. Just go off for a second, is it? Or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so Paris. So that was only yesterday, but this is fluid and ongoing. Remember, today is summer solstice. Why is that relevant? Well, it may not be, but I got a feeling it is. I was expecting some sort of attack today. Lo and behold, a terrorist attack. I'll get there. So Paris yesterday, this lone guy apparently has got explosives in the car. Apparently it bursts into flames. Apparently the police drag him out of the car, shoot him dead, put a smoke bomb in the car, but it doesn't fit the film that goes with the narrative yet again. So that was yesterday. And then, day before yesterday, excuse me, and then yesterday, a bomb goes off in Brussels station. Exactly the same as exactly 1 year ago on the 22nd of June, 2016. A bomb went off in Brussels Central Station again today, yesterday, okay? Now, I've got footage of this. All you see is apparently a man shouted, Allah Akbar, and blew himself up. The problem is, the film you see, this guy's just standing there alone, on fire, with no perps, no people, no victims. So what, he just blow himself up and blow nobody up? Well, that's real poor suicide bomber. But anyway, that's the official narrative is that's what happened. He's blown himself up, no casualties except him. So, central Brussels, the army are there, they've shut the centre of Brussels down. Centre of London's cut down, the centre of Brussels closed down, the centre of Paris closed down. Where next? Right, today, another attack. Believe it or not, this is the pièce de résistance for me, guys. You're going to love this. Apparently, an attacker in a mosque in Regent's Park Mosque in London again, goes and attacks people with, wait for it, a shoehorn. You hear me right, guys? A shoehorn. A lethal weapon when used in the right way, apparently. But that was his chosen, of all the weapons in the world.
Is this, sorry to interrupt, Martin, is this the guy that was not handcuffed, standing on top of police?
No, this is fresh and new and just happened, Nathan. This is breaking right now. This just happened in Regent's Park this morning for our solstice attack. They tased him and knocked him out on the floor. I made a little tiny video about it because I'm trying to get on top of it. This has happened this morning. I'll get back to the Finsbury attack. This guy, he's a Christian, okay? He's a white guy, apparently quite a complex person. He's a computer guy, a computer whiz kid, an analyst type of person. So he's qualified and educated. So he lives in my city.
Oh, crikey. This isn't much fun, is it? We'll get Martin back once more. I ask him to shut everything down before he starts up on his next little explanation.
Excuse me, people
in
Martin,
chat. Can you shut absolutely everything down except Skype? So
I've got
no
nothing
chat
on, just my watch page.
Yeah, just get rid of everything, so no watch page.
Alright. Hey, Jonathan.
So this has just literally happened today. I mean, before you get into this then, Martin, if you can.
In the last 2 hours, Nathan, this morning.
Because just so the timeline's kept consistent, can you go through the guy who was jumping up on, you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, to go back in time, because this is so fluid, it's hard to keep track of, but the most recent terror attack you will be thinking in your mind's eye is of the Finsbury Park, where this white assailant, who they saying he's a terrorist, well, I'm really confused about that. So what group is he exactly a terrorist for if he's a white Christian? Now, the government narrative is that he, as I said, jumps out, runs out into people, stabs a lady apparently to death. Okay, so they all jump on him. He's got a swollen eye. You can't see his eye. It's closed. Looks like Odin, you know, a bit of, if you know about, if you look into Masonic symbology, there may be something in that for some people. So then he's arrested. Well, I put a little video out. He sat in the back of the van. His arms are up like this. Now, I'm very sorry. You get arrested, right? You got your arms behind your back. The reason being is because when you got handcuffs like that, right, you can strangle somebody or you can punch somebody with a double fist. They don't do it, ever. This is not practice. The only time you will ever see somebody forward handcuffed is moving prisoners. The only time. They always handcuffed behind the back. This guy has got his arms like that. He's not handcuffed. Later on, you see him at the back of the police van, this assailant, this perp, this apparently guy who's just apparently murdered someone, waving. Not only that, before he gets in the van, after he's been beaten up, apparently after the police have pulled him away from all of the Arabs kicking holy poo out of him, he's got freedom to wander around. He gets a photograph taken that I use as the thumbnail. It's actually what you will see on Google when you Google about this event. You'll see this perp from Cardiff, this Darren Osborne is his name. Well, he's got no police on him. He's got free reign to walk about. Well, I'm sorry, if he was a murderer, if he was an Arab murderer, he would have been face down on the floor with a bullet in his head. Every assailant in all of these, what I see as hoax attacks, okay, has been shot dead. Now, let's reel this back. I'll just do a little timeline. That's just the summary of the official narrative, right? I'll cover Grenfell at the end if that's okay with you, Nathan.
Yeah, it's fine if you cover the tower at the end for me, Martin, but probably best if we get you on the line first. So let's do that. It's obviously a conversation that Skype don't like. I'm going to go straight into that conspiratard mode, aren't I, Martin, and blame Skype for it all.
Well, Manchester, because we're all pretty much aware of what happened there. We've all seen the footage of lack of bodies and everything else. It doesn't take a genius to work out what's happened there. But get to Westminster Bridge. This is just an unbelievable psyop. The police, the ambulance services, the special ones for the City of London, I don't know if you're aware, but they have their own police force, which is not the Metropolitan Police. It's the police for the City of London, which is its own principality and its own small country within itself, the same as Washington, D.C. or the Vatican or, Wall Street. They're city-state. So the normal sort of emergency services were not permitted to go in the area. Now, what I witnessed was like people being terrorised by the police. There were a load of people. There's footage out there this morning on videos that I hadn't seen before, I've seen today, of people in a restaurant. Police come in, unarmed, not really looking like police. The only thing you can identify them as being police officers is they have police written on their high visibility jackets. Well, high visibility jackets are anywhere. You can get them anywhere. So no guns, really suspect. They have to order everyone to hit the floor. Don't look up. The people's crime, having a meal. Later on then, see all of the people from all of the restaurants in the area all marching down the roads with their hands on their head, because apparently the narrative is that one of them could be a suicide bomber. Even the blonde white Christian lady with her hands on her head. It's ridiculous. So the way I see it is the government are terrorising the people. Why are they? Well, to me, it's part of the bring chaos in order to bring in order. They want to divide people all the more. It's part of what I believe is a Hegelian dialectic at play. They bring in the, well, you've all heard the saying, problem, reaction, solution. Well, David Icke sometimes uses, but it's a totalitarian saying. Well, the problem is the event that you've just seen. The reaction, well, at the moment, is the raw reaction of the migrants, the Muslim communities. At the moment, they're feeling like we get told to stay put in our buildings, get burnt alive, or shot dead, or basically attacked in our religious vigils, or praying. Hey, Eleanor, which is what they're doing. So I don't think the Arabs have been more alienated at this point. This is a deliberate thing by the government. They play both sides. I knew we were going to drop them because I froze for a second.
That's all right, Martin. I'm on the ball now, so even though there is these technical difficulties, I'm getting you reconnected within a few seconds, so we'll just not even mention it from this point on.
Excellent. So, okay, so I'm up to Westminster Bridge, right? And then you get the attack on Vauxhall. Exactly the same MO again. The perps, apparently 3 of them, apparently they've gone through the process of being shot by armed police that were on the scene. Unfortunately, you don't see the same armed response on the white Christian attacking in Finsbury Park or the attack of this morning, but we'll get to that. Now, it's exactly the same MO again. Why would they play this dialectic? Well, as I said, they want to drive people against one another. Are they pushing for some sort of civil war? Well, God, I hope not, but it does feel like that. What I witnessed at the Finsbury Park, I watched a following the London Bridge, which was still raw, and then the Grenfell fire, which was really raw, and then this event happens in Finsbury Park, and the attention on the news and in people's psyche is off of Grenfell because everybody's asking questions. Predominantly, the videos on the internet are asking questions, not going with the government narrative. So this is not going to be able to be swept under the carpet, this Grenfell. This is out the bag. I'll touch upon that, as I said, in a minute. Now, as I said, Finsbury Park, that stinks. The guy has got free reins. You look into him, he seems to be maybe a bit of an acting background. He never was in court the next day. He was in court this morning. That's still ongoing. That's still fluid. Okay? And you think after Finsbury Park, well, it can't get much worse, can it?
This guy's actually contacted you. This is PK, correct?
No, I'll get to that. This is the Grenfell fire. I'll get to that in a minute, Nathan, because there's quite a bit of a story attached to that. So then you get to yesterday, Paris attack. Some guy, they smoke bomb him. Apparently his car's burst into flames, but it doesn't show on the film at all. And they shoot him dead. So it's exactly the same MO. This anomalous army of people running down in vans and cars. Okay? ISIS, apparently supported a fundamentalist terrorist, apparently. And then, as I said, yesterday again, Brussels, exactly the same exactly the same 1 month to the day later of last summer solstice on the 22nd of June last year, exactly the same place, exactly the same happening, only a small explosion, they're saying. So you get to this morning, as I said, and there's been another attack, somebody with a shoe. Tonight, as I said, is the main protest for the Grenfell Tower fire, and it will kick off. I may, if it gets really bad, cover a live stream that I know I watch and try to cover it live if I can, if it gets really bad. Right, Grenfell Tower fire. Now, we're aware that they're presuming that they're in that terrible inferno, that they could find a broken pipe on one freezer on the 4th floor within hours of the event, okay? While the building's on fire, there's people on the ground taxing people down and collecting money for the potential dead while people are potentially burning alive behind them. For me, they're government introduced. Now, it's out of the bag. The reason I'm saying this is because people in the public eye, in the public, have come out and spoke and said this is arson because the community there, they've had basically a large development just across the road of luxury flats. The guy who's sort of the backer to these luxury flats is a guy called Lowry, Lowry. The guy Lowry, who paid the same X amount of billions to Silverstein, the guy who was the owner of Twin Towers. So instantly there's a link with Grenfell and the Twin Towers. But to me, Grenfell not falling down when the entire building is gutted just shows everybody that 9/11 was indeed the same.
Whoa, you're jumping way forward now. You said, no, I'll hold that back. So you've made quite a few connections there between Grenfell Tower and the leaseholder of the 9/11 Tower, or the Twin Towers in New York. Can you just give that a bit more padding?
Yes. Well, it's deeper than that because the name Grenfell itself, when you look into it, the name Grenfell, he was in fact a banking dynasty who done work with partners with JP Morgan and done business with the Asquiths and the like. So even the Grenfell Towers itself is basically tapped into this whole story. But this Lowry, I've looked into him. He's a Zionist full-on player. He paid, I don't know the exact figure, I think it was 2.4, something like that, billion to Silverstein. The guy got paid a massive insurance payout by this Lowry guy who's doing the same investment at Grenfell, the site. And he's the guy, the whole idea is that Silverstein, the owner of the Twin Towers, basically it was a psyop operation to collapse them. The government could benefit in so many ways to push a war through and win the hearts and minds of the American public because nobody wants a war. But after 9/11 and the thought of... So there's a connection with Silverstein, okay? So I found that, and there's a connection with Will Banks and sort of greed. Now, in comes the player PK Saku, who is apparently a local, who, on first impressions, he's a young chap with dreadlocks, seems to be a man of the people. He speaks up on a BBC interview with Victoria Derbyshire. A few of the flat earthers know about this evil woman, this Zionist player. We know all about her. She's the guy who interviewed Ricky Dearman of the Hampstead case.
Okay, now this is the guy I have seen on one of your other videos when I managed to get a bit of broadband.
Well, I had a bit of interaction with this guy.
This is the guy with the little tiny dreadlocks called...
The chitlocks, yes.
Yeah, he's called PK, right?
PK. Funny that, when we've got a truther, a famous truther called PK Truth, who gets his channel folded back a month ago. I thought that was really uncanny. Well, I do a bit of digging into this boy, PK. He was in a public school, Westminster public school, and he's in the Westminster School for Music and Arts. He's a producer, an artist, a co-founder of some sort of organisation. So he's in the actor realm. Okay, look, he's in the actor realm. So instantly, he's not a man of the people. He's one of them. It's potentially to me, anything. Okay. So somebody on my comments, because I've been getting a lot of info coming in about all of these operations, these psychological operations, the massive psychological operation that is underway. So I try and compile it. Well, I had a link of a girl called Annette, and says, why don't you get on his Facebook and ask him, speak to him if he's a man of the people? I'm sure he will. So I did, but it was late in the night, about 2 o'clock. I said, hello, my name's Martin Leaker, Flat Earth British YouTube. Is there any chance that I could have a word with you about the fire? Well, I thought in my mind that if you looked on my YouTube, you would see that I was a normal sort of bloke, although Flat Earth, but whatever. That's, if he's not a believer, that's his problem. But listen to this, Nathan. He's only mentioned Flat Earth since me. I'll get to that now. I'm not joking. So,
I mean, how old is this guy? Because he looks pretty young.
Pretty young, 20 odd is at least. Not a bad looking kid, dreadlocks. He's the one. He's got a lot of a following with the young people anyway. Twitter and the like. So he sends me within 15 or 20 minutes back on my Facebook a little cartoon character, and ha 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 ha. I take it that's for my Flat Earth. I'm not sure. And he says to me, that video with me. Like an order, like take it down like an order. Well, I got my hair off with that. Who do you think you're talking to?
Maybe repeat that, Martin. So you got in touch with him on Facebook, and then he gets back in touch with you and basically says, take the video of me down.
Yes. Now, this is about 3 o'clock in the morning. I should have screen grabbed it, screencast it, and got it out there and then. But by the time I've woke up at 9 or 10 in the morning, he's deleted it, which was crap. So he's obviously known what I'm going to do by looking at my channel. Show everyone. Now, I get a link last night again. He's put words out on his Facebook saying about Flat Earth and how dumb it is, because he's been on my site looking at Flat Earth, right? How dumb it is. And he's going to have people policing all of these conspiracy sites, and anybody who has any reference to him in it, watch out. So a threat, basically, to anyone who's talking about him. This is a man of the people. But the thing that stinks the most about this is with this scientist player, Victoria Thatcher, who is intensely evil, by the way, really don't like her, and he uses the F word, right, Nathan, on BBC television in front of the whole plane. How many people? 20 million? More. And he walks off screen and they let it ride. Within 20 minutes, he's changed clothes, he's back on camera, they're giving him a second shot. He drops an F-bomb on BBC and they give him a second shot with an acting background. And what narrative is he swinging? Well, he's saying this is a deliberate fire for the property developers across to try and paint that narrative, saying these people, the sprinkler systems never worked. Some of the fire escapes were blocked. The lifts were cronky. The entire building had a £10.5 refurbishment a year ago. What do? They replace it with panels that are upright. So if the fire did happen, they would go upright and it would incinerate the entire building. It's insane. If they did put panels on in this day and age, they would put them on site, but there's a fire break. They're thinking, was it premeditated? Maybe. Predictive programming. Well, on ITV telly back in the 1990s, there was a television program called London's Burning. Do you remember that? London's Burning. It was about firemen. Well, it was a TV program, really popular in the 1990s. Well, there's 2 episodes on there entitled Grenfell. And what are they about? They're about the Grenfell tower block on fire. Now, there's 60,000... So, that's uncanny, isn't it? 60,000 tower blocks, and they choose Grenfell for two episodes of London's Burning. So is that predictive programming? Potentially, yeah. I'm trying to look into why they chose TikTok.
I mean, the bit. Sorry to interrupt again, Martin. The bit that's quite interesting to me is I've got no idea. I'm going to clarify this for the audience now. I don't watch TV, and I've been without internet for the last 5 days. So literally all of this is completely fresh to me. So if I seem totally vague, that's why. But you mentioned about the towers looking like they were empty. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Well, it is intriguing because Amir, Insanity to Sanity posted. He's on this. He lives not too far away, 10 minutes from the site. And he went there to take a look, and as per usual, you can't get anywhere near to have a look at the building, the burnout. You can see it, you can smell it, but you can't get near. So he takes a few snaps, and he looks at the snaps that are available on Google, and it does. There's one put in there, actually, Nathan, I found last night, of what looks like furniture, washing machines and fridges. But on first appearance, it would appear that they look like they're empty shells. He uses for a reference, he shows you pictures of Homs, the city in Syria, which is apparently blown up and bombed out, isn't it? And you see footage of this. But when you see footage of Homs, all of the rooms are completely empty. No bedding, no furniture, no tables, no chairs, no fixtures, no fitting, no doors even. They didn't get incinerated, they just didn't exist. So that could be a psyop, like a movie scene, like a small village, ruined for news purposes. They do it for movies, why wouldn't they do it for news? So, excuse me, somebody come up and block my screen.
No, you're still with us, Martin. I mean, the first and most obvious question is who benefits from this? Who benefits from the tower being burnt down?
Well, what I believe, with the tower burning down, okay, now it'll have many aspects for benefit for the government. There's Brexit is on the horizon. The vote for Brexit this week. The day before, there was a Bilderberger meet. The day before, it's crazy, I know, but who benefited? Well, the government benefited massively. That very morning, the Prime Minister, Mr. May, or Theresa May, she gets the worst approval rating in political history. I think the last was Harold Macmillan or something, really far back. So her political career is in shatters. The fear is Corbyn, who is the Labour leader, getting into power, because it's a hung parliament, and it could tip the balance. If he gets into power, Corbyn, he's a member of the Fabian Society. Now, if anybody don't know about the Fabian Society, they're another secret organisation, a bit like the Skull and Crossbones and all of the other ones, the Freemasons and what have you. The Fabians are very interlinked with the operations of the Tavistock, okay? They're interlaced. So, as is with all of this paradigm, the paradigm now for the consciousness of humanity, not just in Europe, not just in America, but plain wide, is there's people from another religion, non-Christian, that are attacking us on religious fundamentalist beliefs. They're extreme. They will do anything. They're unstoppable. They will blow us themselves up, and they will blow you up when you're out in public. So anybody who's out in public will have this element of fear. So that's part of the narrative. They want fear, public, because they thrive on negative vibration. But for me, I believe these people or these entities, this 1%, whoever they are, can't really pinpoint, can we? I think they're clandestine. But they seem to thrive on negative energy. Everybody on a worried, lower vibrational state. They want that. So they get that. So there's a political motivation. She done really well, Theresa May, out of that. There's a money motivation. Corporate building this luxury apartment block, which the people from Grenville can't go near, by the way. You keep away. They don't want people in these luxury flats looking out of their window and seeing Hindustan outside their window. This building was 90% occupied by migrants from Somalia, Mali, Africa, okay, and places like that, India. Now, because they were all migrants, they have a habit of cramming a lot of people in flats. There was 127 flats, apartment, and they were all mostly one bedroom. But they say they found 50 in one room alone. Bodies charred, crawled in the corner. Is it true? Well, I don't know. There's no photos coming out, but the evidence is so sketchy. You have evidence of this newscaster, for the BBC mind, who lives directly across the road, who swears that he sees a baby chucked out of the 14th window whilst the fire is going, and a fireman runs forward and catches said baby. Yeah, later on that day, we see an interview with a Muslim woman. Her version of events is a kind gentleman ran up and caught the baby. Well, to my mind, you would mention it being a fireman runner, not a kind gentleman. So inconsistencies. This newsreader who had been there all night, and he'd been like saving people and in the fire.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, people. Oh, if we're going to get Martin back at all on this occasion. Because the only question I've got for Martin when we finally do get him back is, I don't know London well enough to know exactly where the tower is. I mean, is it in a posh part of London? Would it spoil someone's view? Seems like a crazy question, but sometimes these things are so petty in terms of why they're perpetrated. Just try once more. If not, we may have to round out this show here. So far, I'm shaking my head because I'm slightly in amazement at what I'm hearing. You back with us, Martin?
Yeah, fine, thank you. So this is obviously ongoing, but the amount of these psychological operations, which they undoubtedly are, because any one of them can be picked apart for inconsistencies, lack of photographic evidence, you never see the bodies, the perpetrator was shot. It's always the same narrative. Now, where they're going is a good question, I think. What is their end game? Well, for me, it's Hegelism, the plan for a one-world government. The Jesuits have this plan as well, that they want to...
Sorry, Martin, I've asked something slightly more benign just while you were off air, which is to say, I don't know London well enough to know where this tower is. Is it spoiling someone's view? Is it going to get rebuilt?
Yeah, it's spoiling someone's view, all right. There's a directly across the road is a luxury flat development, apartment. As I said, part of the backer for this development is this Lowry guy that that gave Silverstein this payout of $1 billion. He's a big player in politics.
I see. I didn't quite catch that. Now I'm following.
If you do a bit of research and back digging into this Lowry, he's a big time player. It's all part of this. All the corporate, all the big business are all playing together. They're in cahoots with governments because governments are not really the final people in charge. They're just basically gangsters. You call them political parties. To me, they're just businesses and corporate businesses. They back one another up. The police, who used to be, the idea was protect and serve and look after the people. Well, unfortunately now, they're leased out and subletted like mercenaries to landlords to make people homeless, as you know, with the eviction of Poncho Pete, things like that, they're subbed out to these events. Now, to me, they antagonise the crowd as well. I believe that they know what's going on. You can tell, soon as these events happen, exactly the same narrative from CNN to Hong Kong, to Marti to Malaysia. For every news narrative across the plane is fed the same one. But there's apparently 6 separate news media outlets, okay? But yet they all running the same. And the newspapers all running exactly the same. It's the narrative of hate. So they let the millions or 1 million people, migrants in the country, no problem, because of the EU legislations, which we're trying to get out of, which is part of the ongoing thing of Brexit, which is on the table today, believe it or not. Today, big day for Britain. It's also the Queen's speech. The Queen's speech, why is that important? Well, she's laying down the future. And
while Martin's reconnecting, I just noticed that Nora had said in the chat that they need to purge the area for gentrification. Would you agree with that?
I would, yes. Exactly what I would agree with. There's a couple of these blocks of flats, but as I said, they had a refurbishment last year of 10.4 million. This boy PK says that they were £65,000 each for each elevator to be repaired or replaced. But he says, these blocks of flats are exactly the same as when I was a boy. Although when you look at his background, he's not even from that area. So he's painting this narrative, but he throws you what's called a curveball, Nathan, where when you dig in, you'll run into a brick wall. It's deliberate. He seems to be a man for the people, but in my opinion, I'm biased because I feel he didn't want to talk to me. I found that alarming to myself, and him being an actor as well. For me, he's coming out with wants everybody to know that this was a murder, a mass murder, if it was, a psychological operation. He tells everybody. He let him do it twice across the world's media. Okay, he's got an acting background. So to me, it's the old narrative of controlling the opposition. They want you to know that they've murdered people in a tower block. They want you to know it's for corporate gain and greed, which is the bottom line. And political, these politicians have gained really, really well out of this as well. They've taken the heat away from the Fabian Society and the Marxist agenda of Corbyn, because this is falling into a Marxist totalitarian society as we speak. I watched 10 minutes of the Queen's
Well, sorry,
speech.
Martin, you've mentioned the Fabian Society a couple of times.
Yes.
I don't know anything about them, so...
Okay, well, I got a book. If anybody wants it, contact me and I can give you books on the Fabian Society. They're as much players as the Masons or the Illuminati or any Skull and Crossbones, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs, or any of these secret organisations. They are as prominent and active. I could go into the backstory. They've been around since about the 20s. They work closely with the works of the Tavistock Institute, stateside and Europe as well, which underlines the social paradigm, the world we see around us. This includes fashion. This includes the foods we eat, the changing paradigm in social thought. Like in the 60s, we had free sex because of the pill, the miniskirts, and this was all them. The introduction of LSD into society. So, what I'm suggesting is this narrative of the Fabians. Now, they got a symbology as well. You will see a white lamb and a white dog. Member of the Fabian Society, Russell Brand, ties in again. Russell Brand, he had the episode The Truths. Now, 1 year ago, Russell Brand had a march to Parliament with a load of women and civilians from the very same estate as Grenville. The argument, they were getting ousted out of their, it's called Westbrook, the Westbrook block of flats. Same area, okay? So they were getting ousted out of their building. He decides to support them. They get petitions in Bok, I think it was 500,000, supported by Russell Brand's Truths YouTube channel. This was all last year. It became an episode called Snidegate. The reason being, he's outside Parliament, 10 Downing Street, taking these petitions with the Westbrook women. And this news guy comes up to him and basically gives him a bit of stick, saying, how could you be a hypocrite supporting these real women from a council estate, yet you have 12 million or more in your bank account? And he went, you're just a snide, and got evil and nasty with him. Anyway, to move on, he manages to get the women of Westbrook saved, and they save their block of flats and push through this refurbishment for the same block of flats as Grenville. Ties in with Russell Brand, the Fabian Society, all of it just ties in. It's all interlaced. The more I dig, I find basically a road all leads back to the same plan.
But the parallels that I can see, sorry Martin, the parallels that I can see straight away is that there's immediately multiple narratives running. So there's not just your perception of what could be going on, which, no offence, is pie in the sky, obviously. I mean, don't get me wrong, again, I think you're very good in these terms of things, and I'm hearing this all fresh, so I'm not even going to comment. But there's also the news narrative, let's call it that, what the news say is happening in terms of the progression of these events, which are very close together. It's amazing, really. And then there's a third narrative from this Peaky or whatever his name is, that's sort of what's the one, Builders Against 9/11 or whatever it was. You know, it's kind of putting out a false narrative to say that there is something awry, and he's saying that there was no refurbishment work done, or that it looked the same as when he was a kid. I mean, that to me is kind of, why would you give this guy so much airtime if he's pushing an anti-narrative? Oop, there we go. Wait a couple of seconds just so we don't lose him.
Exactly.
Yeah, why would you give a guy airtime on the BBC when he's pushing an anti-narrative to what they're promoting there and then in the moment? It makes no sense.
Makes no sense. And his actor's background, well, it does make sense to me, because as I said, they like to control the opposition. They want this out, that they have caused mass murder. Even if there was an empty building and no one's died, there's no way of really knowing, because the whole area is basically blocked off for an investigation.
Now I've got to stop you again. You've just said they want this anti-narrative out.
Yes.
Now that's clear, because they're putting the kid on TV and they're giving him second chances when he said dropped an F-bomb. So I agree with you, but again, I don't see the motivation. I do see the motivation. I just want you to explain it to the audience.
Okay.
That's the best way I can phrase it.
Where this is going now, obviously, like if you look at the scenario today, centre of Paris closed down, centre of Brussels closed down, centre of London more or less closed down. Big massive protest. The cards, the dice have been rolled. The division has been set. Are they edged towards excavating a racial hatred civil war? Oh yeah, I 100% believe that's what they want. And why do I believe they want that? And what will they get out of it? Well, then they can introduce 100% police state. They can introduce martial law for whatever, getting this one world order pushed through. Because I believe it's a reality. You've got all of the states, the miras coming through, where America and Mexico and Canada, a lot of people of America are not fully aware of this already, but they're going to be one country. They're going to have one currency called the Emira. And it's in the pipeline. This shit's going through. So they want, we've got the African state, the Asian state, and they're just going to have one big conglomerate state. It is already, as far as I'm concerned. You always see the same anomalous black uniformed soldiers, police, or whatever they are. If they're in Malaysia or if they're in any destination, they will always be dressed the same. I know fashion's changed, but to me, it's all part of the same, what I believe is an NWO, New World Order narrative. Now, I know we've been fed that, Nathan, on the internet, but not really, because I've been aware of this narrative since I read a book called New World Order that was published in 1923, and it outlines this to the letter, and I mean exactly to the letter. They use social engineering through places like Chichester House, the Tavistock Institute, places like this, which basically there's no aspect of society they don't touch. It
reminds me of I've lost him. I'll say it anyway and maybe repeat it. But it reminds me of George Bush Senior saying we will usher in. I will repeat it. So I was just saying it reminds me of George Bush Senior. We will usher in the new world order.
They've all said it more or less. Another pusher of that is Madeleine Albright as well. She's a big new world order pusher.
But this is very much long term though. I mean, in the short term, they just want to scare the crap out of us. Would you agree?
They want it. They have. They've interviewed people today casually on the street, and everyone is in mortal fear for their lives. Everyone's on a lower vibrational state. What they want?
No, not everybody. And that's why I said this at the beginning of the show. So my wife and I have been subject to none of this, literally none of it, because we've isolated ourselves from TV and the internet. Internet, we didn't necessarily want that to happen, but nonetheless, for a week we've not had any of this. And when I'm walking around at work, I hear people talking about it, and they do have that quiver in their voice. They are scared. Me and my wife, I asked you this on the phone yesterday when we were discussing having this show, and I asked my wife there and then, are you scared by any of this, hearing what Martin's telling you? And she was like, no. I was like, well, are you happier that you don't know about it? She was like, absolutely. Much, much, much happier.
It is. It's just brainwashing. It's a narrative set up by the television. None of it, as far as I'm concerned, is true. When you read it out, like I have, 3 pages of this, it reads like a movie script. Listen to this, Nathan, for a reality. You think this is a reality?
Before you start, you said that you'd spotted a pattern. Do you want to get into that afterwards or before?
Yeah, I'll touch upon that right now in a minute, right?
Okay.
But you look at this, right? Like Anders Breivik, apparently a Freemason, apparently has the technology to blow up an entire parliamentary skyscraper in the centre of Oslo, gets a short prison sentence, a slap on the wrist. He goes to an island full of potential politicians, not necessarily Arab, but it was a racially motivated mass murder. Anders Breivik. When did that take place? 22nd of the 7th 11th. 22. The Woolwich attack, whether you remember that. 22nd again. The last Brussels attack, 1 year ago, yesterday, or 1 year ago tomorrow, the 22nd again. The Munich attack, the 22nd. London attack, the last one, 22nd. Manchester attacks, the 22nd. I can just go on. You can acquaint this to 233. Anything that happens around that date. Exactly. You get an event. I knew an event would happen today. It's the summer solstice. They will use that. They will use that date for whatever they're up to. To me, Nathan, I see this building burning in my psyche. This is how I work.
Hopefully we'll see how Martin sees this all working in his psyche.
I see it as a burnt offering. I see it as a sacrifice of what potentially could be 1,000 people. I do believe people have died. I do believe they want it out that they've caused it for greed. And at the moment, the Muslims are thinking this: oh my God, we get told to stay put in our buildings to burn to death by the government. Force. They make sure they die. Make sure the sprinklers don't work when it was refurbished last year. Make sure the fire escapes a block. Refurbished last year makes no sense. This was a mass murder, premeditated and planned out and predictably programmed also. I believe there was people in there. I believe this was all part of, she probably called that, is my opinion, Theresa May, that morning, because of her political stance that morning. She was in the worst anybody'd ever seen. She was dying a death politically. So it got all of the thought off of her. There was other things happening in the pipeline as well. So it's this same old magic trick, Nathan. Watch this hand over here and the magic trick's happening here. The magic trick over here is all of these events, which everybody is consumed with in the public now and thinking about. Maybe they're not thinking so much about the flat earth, I'm not suggesting that they make these terrible, massive psychological operations to detract from everyone on the plane waking up to the globe lie. I don't know. It's a bit of a coincidence this is happening at the same time and accelerating.
Well, it's a distraction, isn't it, from anything? So ultimately speaking, everybody's attention is on that. So no, I wouldn't agree that it's specifically as a distraction from flat earth, but it is a distraction from flat earth. We're in the chat, there's somebody saying there's flat earth in the title. It's like, well, actually that's the show name, but there we go. The title of the show is Flat Earth United, regardless of whether or not we talk flat earth. But most things will always link back into that. For me, now we can be criticised. I'm sure JLB will criticise us for it. He's in the chat, and before the show, because he's covered this event as well, his most recent was on the van, and he does it in a I love JLB's videos, not gonna lie. But he did it in his sarcastic usual way, saying absolute proof, 100% real, and then he quotes the narrative in a kind of monotone way, so he's saying, look, people will say that the bodies haven't got any blood on them, therefore why would the van have any bodies on them, in such a matter-of-fact way that of course that makes perfect sense, which I just think is genius. But so many people don't get it though. He's doing the same thing they are, putting it out. in a sort of twisted, weird rearrangement of their narrative, and that always will work for me. It's humorous. It's an absolute joke to point out their narrative and say, well, here's a van with absolutely no damage on it, and I'm going to do this reference again. I get pulled up every time I do it, which is to refer to best score, and just say, if you want to see what happens to a van when it runs people over, go to best score and just type in van runs someone over and see how much damage it causes. People are big. You know what 60-70 kilo man will do to a thin piece of metal. Believe me, it doesn't leave no damage. It certainly draws blood, you know, when you hit the pavement after being hit by a van. But that was pretty much the only footage I actually watched was JLB's coverage, again through my limited 3G access to the internet over the last few days. But yeah, I just looked at that and thought, yes, it's the same old story. It's exactly the same narrative that we've seen time and time again, and it is literally getting to the point where commentators like JLB have just descended into sarcasm over it.
It's gone into the point of ridiculousness. I don't know what John's thinking about the latest assailant, tasered, armed with a shoehorn. What was he going to do? Force their shoes off? You know, a shoehorn.
That shoehorn thing is, I think, is a nod. It's Duper's delight. So in all of these events, it's the one thing I've noticed in every single one. People lose their shoes. You know, it's crazy. They'll have jeans that have been cut up with scissors, tourniquets on wounds that aren't there, and no shoes. So this guy turning up with a shoehorn is just an insult to me. It's just Duper's delight.
It is. But you're right about this shoe thing. I made a little video last night. I was going through some pictures and they showed you the Brussels attack of 1 year ago. Two women actually, sat on a chair and she's got one shoe off, one shoe on. Same old scenario, a little bit of blood on her face. The other woman has got, the only blood on her is on the hand she's holding a cell phone with, and she's got a cream jumper on with not a spot of blood on it. It's just everything screams wrong with these events. But I know how it works because there's crisis management is an operation.
I was going to say, in terms of the jumper, it could actually be more along the lines of they're just employing random people. They're crisis actors. So to explain every detail, like don't wear a white t-shirt, you know, things like that, they're not going to be able to explain everything down to the nth detail with a crisis actor.
It's just not possible. I'm finding what they're doing, Nathan, is they're chucking these curveballs in for when you investigate it, you hit a brick wall. Here's an example. In the London Bridge attack, right, there was police changing down to their underpants, mind, in the street, and you will see them putting camouflage.
I don't know if this is something that has happened in other events as well, where they've had captured footage of people capturing footage of police changing into like camo gear and casual wear on the street in full view of camera phones. I mean, I don't really understand. Again, it boggles my mind why they would do that. You know, they've got plenty of facilities to get changed. Why didn't they get changed before they left? Well, it doesn't make any sense.
It does when you understand how the narrative works. They want to do a curveball so that every time you investigate, you hit a brick wall. This is what they did. They showed you them people changing into camis and a blue shirt, and then the next image is of a apparent suicide bomber, dead, laying down, no blood of course, with some tins of baked beans tied around his middle, apparently a dummy bomb. But you see that he has camo trousers on and a blue shirt and a beard. Instantly, I did it myself. Oh my god, that's the police officer. He's doubling as the terrorist. But Russian vid and another person I see debunked it. They matched his face. It's not the same geezer, but they want you to think it is. They know exactly what's going on. They know that.
So it's another part of the magic trick. Show you on one hand, look, guy in camo pants. Ah, look, the terrorist who blew up's wearing camo pants. Go away and make the connection.
And then it's a brick wall. They do it deliberately. It's a curveball. So then you know people are going to investigate. We're going to undress in the street. There's your attention. You're definitely going to look at this. Wearing our underpants. You're definitely going to film this and how unusual it is in the street where we could have done it at the police station or in vans. And then you see this next assailant in the same clothes. Anybody's going to acquaint that, but it's not the same dude. So they knew that was going to happen. To me, that's part of the plan. To me, it's a curveball. So you've investigated, you hit a brick wall. Same with this PK, this guy with the towers in Grenfell, this young chap. He's thrown a curveball. He's supporting apparently a man of the people, although he's not. And he's saying that he's supportive, but he's painting the wrong narrative. He's not saying like Lily Allen, the famous singer, is saying, or that other famous singer. I don't know her name, but apparently she's a right Illuminati player as well. But Lily Allen, the singer, came forward. She said, there's hundreds of people in there and they're covering it up. They're sticking looking at the 98 Dead, but people of influence in music industry have come out saying that it's more people. So it's really outspoken, and as I said, predominantly the videos on the internet are calling it out. They wanted it to be called out. They want the division. They want to.
When we get Martin back, I'm going to get him to summarise now that he's done the full official narrative and little bits and pieces of what he thinks is going on. Martin, can you, while we're coming up on about an hour now, you've gone through the full official narrative and you've given your take here and there about what you think's going on, obviously about this Peaky guy and various other things, so have I with the JLB videos. Can you tell us what you think the pattern is? Because, how can I say this? You said on the phone yesterday that you've got certain things that you think may happen going forward based on a pattern that you see. It's terrible to just ask you to speculate in such an overt way, but...
I have been looking into patterns, but I look for a geographical pattern. What I've done is I got a map of London out. I marked down Finsbury Park Mosque, I marked down London Bridge, and I marked down Westminster Bridge. They made a perfect triangle. Okay, it's triangulated. So I thought, well, maybe I could predict the next event. Maybe if it was in the shape, maybe a pentagram or something like that. Knowing them on their types of their religious, weird religion. So I need to get back to that map now after this show and add Regent's Park Mosque on there this morning. Maybe I could predict where the next events are going to happen. But being as this in Brussels and Paris, maybe I should, do it on a bigger map. But I am looking for a pattern. There's a pattern with numerology for sure. All of these, this is 20 seconds, these events. When you look on Google, there's actually a list of like 50 of terror events on second. But they're all like anomalous, like in Mali or Bali or places that never get publicised or you never hear of really. But there's a number code in it, like the Manchester Arena. I know we're like flat earthers and we believe like the stuff, maybe some have believed the stuff of Russian vid, 33 and orange bands and the rest of it, but the fact still remains that the arena's postal code 33. The dates seem to coincide as well, so there is a pattern. I now predict what comes next, no doubt about it. How would I be able to call these things the day before? I called this all week and saying, and leading up to the election, how they muddied the water, keeping people in because so they were so scared to go out and vote that nobody voted, so she could whiz the election. But it didn't work out.
Well, is that what you think it is then? They're trying to keep voting numbers down. Partly.
She calls a really unusual general election usually.
Once again, to everyone watching, I'm really sorry for the technical difficulties in this show. Hopefully we've kept Martin online long enough to keep it reasonably flowing nicely. But yeah, and you, Martin, as well. Thank you for your patience.
No worries. It's okay. It's only a second, isn't it? But where was I exactly then? Oh, I got quite lost then.
I've lost track now because I've given that little explanation. We were rounding things up in terms of where you think things are going, possible predictions for the future.
Yeah, they're going to carry on with this. This is ongoing. I can tell because of the fluidity. It's getting almost daily. Apparently, we're at some sort of world war with an anomalous army of people in vans and cars that will run us over and kill us and shoot us and stab us and blow us up, apparently. But that's what everyone's thinking in their psyche. So they've already won the psychological operation. They've already got everyone shit scared. So what could they want for the future? Well, they want to stop anybody waking up to maybe a freer sort of society. They don't want that. This is sort of detracting from all of that freedom, going deeper into a really sinister new sort of aspect of society that I never expected. It's partly like automated with the dehumanization, where they're going to have everyone sort of connected to this amazing technology that has given us these abilities. Where a 16-year-old boy could have the information of a quantum physicist at his fingertip, but yet chooses not to use it. Really unusual. But
what's that about? Because that reminds me of a scene in Men in Black. So when they're recruiting the J character, they take him to a shooting range. This is a bit off topic, sorry. But they take him to a shooting range, and he's got all of these other recruits around him, and they're all shooting at aliens. And in the middle of the shoot, he stops and shoots a little tiny girl. Obviously, it's a cardboard cutout because she's holding astrophysics books and quantum mechanics books, but she's only about 8 years old. So his excuse is she's obviously up to some crazy stuff.
Yeah, she's got quantum physics books. She's up to some crazy shit. I don't remember that bit actually. It must have been a newer one, was it?
No, that was in the very first movie. I mean, all the other recruits are shooting the aliens, and one's like hanging from a lamppost, but he's holding a tissue. So he's pointing out that he's very observant. He's like, well, this guy's not snarling, he's sneezing, he's holding a tissue.
Right. There's a lot of good things in the Men in Black. You know, he mentions the flat Earth before everybody knew the Earth was flat. He says it right there.
Hey, Martin's not wrong, because Men in Black was probably one of the earliest references that I heard or consciously knew about. They were saying about the Earth being flat, because he's very specifically said it. So the Tommy Lee Jones character sat on I think he's on a park bench, and the other character, the Will Smith character, has literally just found out that there's aliens. Of course, globe programming at its finest. But when he just finds out, he said, look, 500 years ago, people thought the Earth is flat. Yesterday, you thought we were all alone. You know, that's not the exact phrasing, but you know what I mean. He's specifically referencing the fact that people used to think the Earth was flat in a way that's not subliminal. It's very overt. Yeah, interesting.
Very, very interesting. But honest to God, the amount of attacks in the last last year, it's been crazy. Since I've been a YouTuber, you know, they've had more than this. It's Bataclan, Nice, Melbourne, Brussels, Berlin, Paris, Times Square, Westminster, London Bridge, Finsbury Park, Brussels again, Woolwich, Birmingham. It just goes on and on and on. And this is all in the last 2 years. And every one of them are a hoax. Every one of them I can put. You don't see no bodies. Every one of them are shot dead. There's no follow-up story. But the people look into the crisis actors and say, how could they do this? You think they can actually hire all these people? Oh yeah, there's footage out there of a crisis actors in a shopping centre in Manchester where a suicide bomber pretends to blow himself up, and then you see all people injured with these same tourniquets on with blood on them. Exactly the same scenario.
That was another JLB video, was it not?
It was.
So that went viral for JLB. So last time I checked, he had about 500,000 views on it. And again, it was the same tone. It was the sarcastic, here's 100% proof it was real, but with a slightly different slant, because it was a 12-month-old drill, as you say, where it's Allahu Akbar, smoke grenade goes off, and then, you know, the normal, what you see on the news for these real events then occurs after this drill. So the parallels are uncanny. You know, it's not 100% proof of the event happening, obviously, but I think that was the point JLB was trying to make with that video. But it is, you're right, there's a consistent pattern, and it's terrible to think that I don't want to ever be considered an auto-hoaxer when you say that these events aren't real. But on the other hand, you know, going back a few months when it was the Paris attack, again, JLB, he's got 3 mentions now, I hope he's grateful. He did a live cast of what the news was presenting, and he always does it in that manner where he says, look, I'm not necessarily saying this is real or this is this is fake. I'm saying assess it for yourself. Here's the news footage. This is what it looks like. This is what the people are being presented. You decide for yourself whether or not it's real or fake, I think is the title of his show. And in that particular attack, when they had a van drive through about 70 people or something ludicrous. Again, very little damage to the van, and the people that they showed were like sandbags. You know, they weren't bodies, they were dummies. There was no other way to describe it.
Oh, are you there? Yeah, there you are. Yeah, no, I've seen it. No, John O'Bonn's done some cracking work. He cranked up an event, I think it was to cover maybe the London Bridge one, and I went into the chat to watch it. Exactly the same sort of card. He's thinking along the same lines, but with this element of sarcasm is very clever. But just if he hears me, just aside, John, that video of that big van was hired 1 mile away from me. What are the chances on the size of this plane that van should be hired 1 mile away from me, and that fella from Pentwyn 3 miles away from me?
Why would they hire it there? I mean, maybe they just live there, but to go to that much effort, to drive that sort of distance.
Why indeed? All he had to do was drive about 3 miles into Riverside, near Cardiff City Centre, or down to Cardiff Bay. We have massive mosques with thousands pouring out of them. We have the Cardiff Bay may as well be Mogadishu. You wouldn't even know you were in Britain. So why the hell didn't he just jump in hire this van and go down to Cardiff Bay and attack the mosques down there? Why did he drive all the way to crappy Finsbury Park? I'm only saying it's no offence to people there, but I know the area really well, and I know that the people are really cool, down to earth, similar to the people where I live. And that PK doesn't fit the MO. He's trying to be street. I'm one of the people, but he ain't. He's acting.
Well, didn't you say he'd been to boarding school school, and he's fully toffed up, is he not?
He's fully toffed up, but Westminster boarding school. That's like Ivy League, mate. That's like a really, really privileged background. And now he's in the Westminster School of Music and Arts as a producer, as a co-founder of some sort of organisation, as an artist. He's in the realm of acting and stuff. So for him to be there, put on that place, allowed all of that precious airtime on the biggest news media outlet in the world, going right across the plane.
And the same goes for the F-bomb. You know, I have no doubt there will be a number of complaints that will be lodged and blah, blah, blah. But again, isn't that kind of the point? You know, if you've got somebody's attention by offending them in some severe way, and dropping an F-bomb on a live broadcast will certainly do that for some people certainly on British television. You know, the British public are very easily offended when it comes to swearing, it would seem, especially in newscasts. I don't know why, but, you know, it will generate complaints. But again, it means it's on the tip of the tongue of everybody, right down to the common man who is pleased that the swearing on TV. And again, it cross-pollinates all the way up to the upper echelons of the posh people who think that's absolutely appalling, that you shouldn't have swearing. It seems pathetic, I know, that we're discussing an F-bomb in amidst this, but it is very much part of it. You know, I would almost like to bet that he was told to swear.
It seemed like, because the reason I think that he was told to swear, and the reason I think he was going with a script, because I really do, is because the way he talked about it seemed unnatural. He seemed like he was poor acting, and he dropped the F-bomb in as the last word he said. That seems really weird. I'll just say F and she's like, oh, I apologise for the viewers at home for that. And then he's completely changed his clothes and back on camera within an hour, live on the biggest primetime news show, which is Victoria Derbyshire. She's interviewing him. It just doesn't ring true. And his set narrative of, you know, if he was like exposing this big mass murder, do you think they'd pull him on the news to tell other people about it? Well, yeah, because I know how the narrative works. I know how the operation is working. They want everybody to know. But, you know, in their mindset of if you've got to go with the government narrative and that's the real story, you wouldn't pull this guy on to blow it unless you wanted him to, which I know while from his response to me that he's one of them. Very rude. No need to basically order me to take his video down about him. And that
in itself is quite weird, because you'd think he'd be, regardless of the fact that you're obviously a conspiracy theorist and you're saying something in opposition to what he's saying, you'd think if he was out there in performing arts school, he'd be relishing the publicity. I mean, I say that for this. That's how I would see it, and I went through performing arts school, so I would just think, great, there's no such thing as bad publicity, wonderful news. But instead of that, he's telling you to get that video down. That seems like, again, a little bit weird.
And the way he ordered it as well, really, really chopsy, and I take it that was for me asking him could I have an interview with him. But I thought if he looked on my channel, he could see that I was just a bog standard normal bloke, and he's supposed to be a man of the people, that he might want to tell me.
What we might do is have a little bit of a chat about Flat Earth, just so we don't get any criticism. And I will say it once more, Flat Earth United is the show title, so whether or not we talk about Flat Earth, we will, and we have linked this to Flat Earth to a certain degree. But I don't know, maybe now we're going over things again. Maybe we can talk a little bit about Flat Earth. And before the show started, you asked me, can we talk about this gossip or that gossip? And I was like, well, yeah, I don't mind what we talk about. We've got all day, but I'd rather it wasn't talked about at the beginning hour, when we're going through all of this stuff.
No, of course not. That's silly. Yeah, there is stuff happening. I don't know if people out there in YouTube here have seen the latest revelation about said internet super troll, Timothy Osmond. Rory McPhee's posted a picture of him this morning, and obviously IPS, who posted this morning about him, and it's also on Tim's channel as well.
Have you heard Tim Osmond?
I spoke to him earlier.
Have you heard his account of this though? Because he's saying this was absolutely intentional, and as far as I can tell, it certainly seems that way. It certainly seems to me like you don't show up at somebody's event and then say, "Look, I'm streaming, I'm live streaming, I'm here." You wouldn't do that unless you wanted somebody to come along and take pictures of you or see you or meet you. So to me, to say, "Oh, we've caught him," is kind of like, no, he's offered himself up, and I don't know, is there some Jedi mind trick involved here? I don't know what's in it for him. He says it's because of whoever that failed docs that Globebusters did. There's some guy out there that's been doxed as Tim Osmond.
Jason Hornsby.
Say again, sorry?
Well, he's trying to say on his vlog that he's trying to take the heat off of Jason Hornsby basically the guy who's been put out there as being Tim Osmond. Okay, he's saying that he's an innocent, although the picture doesn't look remarkably like Jace Osmond on that I seen this morning.
That doesn't add up either. And I mean, leopards don't tend to change their spots. And from memory, I've even got a video on this. Jeff Stewart did the same thing. Followed a breadcrumb trail. Kyle Jones, that was it. And, was he all out defending the Kyle Jones guy in the same way? Well, of course not. So, again, this stinks in terms of why. But the fact remains, he seems to have done this intentionally. For anyone who's watching this that's like, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about, might as well give a bit of clarity. There is 2 Tim Osmonds in Flat Earth. One is the alias of Infinite Plane Society, Tim OZ-Man, Ozman. And the other is Tim Osman, or O-S-M-A-N, who is a notorious troll. However, and I'm going to say this having trolled him myself personally for a very long time also, seems to have had a bit of a change of heart, I'm not going to lie. And I will also back him up when he says that absolutely everything seems to get blamed on him. Well, you can't really moan about that when you do a lot of trolling, and he did do a lot of trolling. That said, he seems to be a lot more approachable now. Doesn't change what he's done in the past for me. I don't know, everyone else wants to forgive him, more power to them. For me, doesn't change the fact that he's gone out and doxed people. Patricia Steer being one of them in her own chat room. So, pot calling the kettle black in some respects when he moans about these things happening to him, but it doesn't change the fact that he has, in my opinion, done this intentionally. He's gone out there to be photographed. Why? I don't know. I asked him, what's in it for you?
No, I had a word with him earlier. He said he'd done it intentionally. I had a feeling when I seen him that he would, because it's Tim and he's just not that daft. He's going to know that if he was streaming there, that they would pick up that he was streaming there. It wouldn't take a genius to work out where he was. One question that my mind asks myself is, can you stream using an iPhone with under 10,000 subs?
That's a good question. Last time I looked into this, it seemed that YouTube were rolling out a beta test,
But he could.
Sorry. But there is other methods that you can use to stream. And I think one of the guys at the Space Centre was telling us about it. Don't you remember?
Yeah.
He was explaining that you can go in via some gaming site and use that to stream via YouTube. So there are certainly workarounds. And I've certainly seen people who haven't got 10,000 subs. But I think YouTube themselves, either now or in the future, offered the facility to just go straight into your menu and just on the phone just go straight to live streaming, and that, from what I read most recently, was only available to people as a trial period over 10,000 subs and will eventually get rolled out to everybody. That's as I understood it.
Do that. That'd be great to do that. I could do a live stream out somewhere cool. That would be really cool. But he knew they were going to come over, but I felt that they were a little bit rude to him. I know it's Tim and he's a dick, but the way they sort of taxed him down with a bit of not aggression as such, but depth friction. I don't know whether you watched the video when they turned up with cameras and he sat there, and Tim's quite he's not agitated, he's not nervous, you can hear that in his voice.
I don't know, I just sorry about this, screaming kids and technical issues. So I certainly detected a bit of fear in his voice, but that was possibly because, as Martin says, he was being mobbed. So yeah. Got you back, Martin. Brilliant.
No, I might be wrong, but I definitely think that he's saying as well that he turned up on purpose. This is Tim Osborne we're talking about, so there's nothing he doesn't do that isn't thought about, meditated. If he turns up there, streaming, they would see him, they would suss him. So why did he want to be seen? Well, I got a little sneaking suspicion about this. Tim's big news. He's mentioned by everybody, Globebusters, IPS, ourselves, all of the arena, the Ability Arena, he's mentioned as this famous super troll. Now, he loves the attention. Tim, he does. He's the same as everybody else. He loves it. So what I feel he's doing is, because he's in the thick of it all with IPS and all of the shit that's going down, he loves it. He thrives on it like the rest of them. But what I think's happening with him is, I think that he secretly wants to come out, and I don't think it's to ease off of Jason Hornsby, this person he's trying to text, because he didn't do the same for Kyle Jones. You're quite right. I thought that myself. So I think that he looked, the picture that I seen this morning looked just like Jason Hornsby to me. Same nose, same bone structure, same tone, essentially the same person to me.
Yeah, but, I mean, now we've got that bit, which frankly is the boring bit out of the way.
Yeah,
the thing that did interest me was, again, on a recent conversation between the 2 Tim Osmonds, and Tim Osmond said, look, I can't even get people to fund going out with a bit of geodetic surveying equipment. And I thought that's very interesting. I've heard him mention it several times, and people are all for promoting, flat earth signs and things, which is great. It gets people to research the subject. But ultimately, we do need to get to a point where we've got, people who are smarter than us. That's the bottom line. None of us are infallible. Even the people who claim to be super, super smart, none of them are infallible. But ultimately, there's going to be people out there who can draw this to a conclusion. But it doesn't have anyone with the expertise, or anywhere near enough of the people with the expertise interested enough to be going out and either confirming or debunking the globe. The bottom line is we're in a position where, as far as we can tell, and Tim Osman with a S will also concede to this, as far as we, the common man, can tell, the Earth that we're presented with is flat. Now, I'm going to preface that by saying it's not flat. That's absurd. We have topology, the tides rise and fall, blah, blah, blah. But we are living on a plane as far as we can tell. Beyond that, we have Freemasons who go to space and tell us something totally different. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that we live on a flat plane because they're lying. I will also concede to that point. But it does mean that beyond what we can actually verify ourselves, that's the only point that we're told that it's a globe by people who say we can go up higher, we can go further away, we can have a look at this, and you cannot. Therefore, it doesn't matter that what you experience in your day-to-day existence is a flat plane. It's a globe because look, we've got a picture of it. There's one in the background right now. And every time I see these images of globes, I just see fakeness. I just see CGI nonsense. Nothing ever changes in that respect. So it's one of those. I'm never going to ever be in a position to tell somebody I've got proof the Earth is flat. But by the same token, what we are presented with by NASA is nonsense and CGI that goes beyond what we can actually see ourselves. And what we see ourselves is a flat plane.
That's all we ever will see. I know you've been sort of cut off the information this week, but are you aware of this guy, Mad Mike? Are you aware of this?
Yeah, Mad Mike was on the scene before I lost my internet connection, so I did watch the show where IPS interviewed Mad Mike. It was very interesting.
Very. You know what he's posing, do you?
Yeah, well, initially he's going to go up to, 120,000 feet, I think he said, in this rocket that's going to be sponsored by the Flat Earthers. Let's just see if I can get both of us on screen. There we go. So yeah, he's going to have... Yes, Mad Mike, he's going to go up really high. Yeah, so Mad Mike's going to go up to the Kármán line in about 6 months' time.
Wow.
So, but, I don't know if he'll get there. Am I right in saying the first rocket's steam-powered?
Yeah, that's what he said. I know, I'm really intrigued. I want to know more details. Apparently, Patricia's going to interview him, and she spoke to him on the phone, so that's really groovy. I know Kylie Sunshine posted some information on it. Apparently, he's going to go up in a rocket and parachute. I don't know how this works with the entry and things, but apparently he needs a spacesuit built by next year. He wants $100,000 for. Apparently, his research flat Earth is to go on the side of said rocket. It's going to be groovy. I gotta see this. This guy's supposed to be a flat earther and really sort of passionate flat earther as well, which is really groovy.
Yeah, I mean, I heard mentioned, I think it was IPS that mentioned this, that he'd spent something like £120,000 on his suit to go up in this rocket. You think, wow, because at first I was like, $7,000, that's quite a lot for a sign. But then you think, well, it's not for a sign, it's sponsorship. Are you pleased that Martin's gone? Is that why you're clapping? That's not very nice. Has to actually work. So yeah, I mean, going up that high would, for me, be like a life's ambition. I don't know about you, Martin, but back when the Lynx Apollo program was on, I was fully signed up. I'd love to go up. Wouldn't you love to do what Mad Mike's doing? I'd love to do that.
100%. I frightened Mike. He's got the courage, but all of these things that he's done in the past that have never made mainstream. I mean, he's got this homemade launch pad. It's in like a sort of built dugout hollow or a crater, and it's like sort of looks like a roller coaster. It's his own launch pad, his own rocket, his own stuff. How's he gonna get enough force to take him up that far with steam? I'm so intrigued. I can't wait to see this go down if it does. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, IPS has got the illusion that this is going to draw a conclusion to it. I mean, what do you think?
Well, if he gets up and he takes a shot, I suspect that it's like maybe Pickard said, flat, a little bit lipped on the edges, which would be because you see the whole circle of the plane around you. I think that's how you and I would interpret it.
I mean, it's not going to be anything like the Orlando Ferguson, though. Let's be honest. I mean, that's a really an exaggeration of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, much more so. But there was a video posted just before you went live by Rob Skiba, a very high dot cam shot, which I haven't watched it yet, but it's looking pretty damn good. I'm not sure sure of the height. I know we've got an 185,000, haven't we? And it's dead flat, normal lens, not fisheye lens, GoPro lens. You will always see this as flat. I have no argument in my psyche. I know it, and I know a no ball. But whatever shape, well, as you said, I look around. I've been at sea for years. I always see things flat. It looks flat to me, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with flat. Obviously, it's bumpy. I live in a mountainous country. It's bumpy, all right, but we're on a plain overwhelmingly, and I do believe that there's more land because of all of the inconsistencies with the maps. I do believe that there's more land elsewhere off plain. I do believe with this psyop of CC, climate change 33, I believe that they try to make out that we're in real trouble caused by humanity, so they can bring carbon tax and the rest. They don't want you mentioning it.
Yeah, I hate to keep referencing the same people, but IPS has summed this up beautifully, and that's that global warming is futurism, and carbon tax is essentially paying for what was it they called indulgences. So yeah, I mean, don't want to sound like an IPS fanboy, but I completely agree with him. You know, that's what we've had as a replacement for Christianity. We now have the religion of the globe. That is our icon. The new cross is the globe, and global warming is the impending flood or whatever. You know, that's what we have now.
Well,
that's our latest faith-based belief system. It's the globe.
I noticed a couple of things I never noticed before, like the way that they I believe that they're heating things up using basically geoengineering and they make climate change. But what really is going on is it's fine, because I believe that it's extended ice, extended land, more air, loads more out there. We haven't got to worry, and they know that, which is why they polluted the plane that we're on to hell without caring, because they know expanded air, expanded planes. Now, excuse me, I witnessed this for myself, the level of pollution that these nuts put up, and it really bugged me when I was a globe believer. I thought, however, could they just dirty this thin blue line of atmosphere up on this small ball when we've nowhere else to go except space? Well, that's exactly what they want you to believe. They want
I was just going to ask you, Martin, based on your maritime experiences, shall we say, was there anything that you came across that would actually suggest that to be the case? Hey, yes, I know, it's Daddy talking. So whenever we talk, we obviously talk about the confinements that you experience, like the shipping lanes. So yes. I can't envisage anything that you would say now that would let me believe that you'd actually seen anything that would suggest that to be true.
One thing I found, right, is if you forget about their map, just think in your mind's eye of a normal azimuth, most of the world's population is above the so-said equator, which is really peculiarly placed on their standard map, very far north. It's not halfway. But all the population mainly is in the central part of our island continents of this pond, right, to me. And then, you know, you've got like pockets of population in the southern hemisphere, as in Cape Town and Durban, South America, a few in South America, and a few in Australia. But overwhelmingly, these are unpopulated areas, as in the Amazon and, you know, the expanses of Australia, and as they tell you, Antarctica. So they've managed to keep the population in the centre part. The shipping is also, and the flights, everything is sort of centred in the centre part, so they can keep everything away from the outside. God forbid they want anybody going down as far as the 60th latitude line, where all these weird ass restrictions come in, like don't smoke a cigarette, you can't blow smoke in the air. But yet they treat us, somebody who's been to Antarctica, Robert, there's crisp packets and rubbish everywhere. The place is terrible. They drop rubbish apparently wherever there is. To me, I don't even think the photographs that you see on Google are actually in Antarctica. My reason for believing this is because this is in the most, they tell you, tidal area in the world called the Roaring Forties. Terrible storms, 50-metre high swells, which I'm aware of because I know captains down there, and it's a living hell around the Cape Horn. That they'll lead you to believe, right? Every single photograph on Google, look for yourself, guys. Every single photograph of the ice wall or the Antarctica coast, videos or pictures, it's flat calm. Not even a top. I never see any weather or storms. Every single Antarctica picture online. I went through pages and pages for something like half an hour, and I never seen one bit of tide or weather or where's this Roaring Forties? What really should be happening is it should be just crashing into said continent, but there's no evidence online for it, funnily enough. I picked that apart. I mean, definitely wrong there. These could be anywhere. These pictures, they could be islands off of some Elizabeth Islands in the North Tundra of Canada, or we know. because there's thousands of islands up there. As you know, one of them is populated by NASA, where they're pretending to do the Curiosity rover mission. They've got rovers look like Curiosity, where they're practicing in a small island off of, the east coast, the west coast of Greenland, apparently. Whereas in there, they're making out it's Mars and they're practicing Mars on the scenery. So there could be just something like that happening. To me, my mind's made up. The episodes Captain Cook and Shackleton of early exploration of Antarctica in the early 1900s was mostly lies, I believe. There's evidence to believe that Shackleton never went south. Was actually in a lock in northern Scotland for 2 winters.
Have you had on your YouTube advertising, because I've certainly had this, an advert for a documentary about Shackleton?
Yeah, I watched it.
Oh, you watched it? I didn't watch it.
Yeah, it's excellent. It's excellent. But it's inconsistent. Like, the ship getting trapped in the ice and crushed. But the one that alarm bells will ring the most is they tell you that survivors of the crew...
I think this might be the last time we get Martin on the line, and afterwards I'll round out and thank everybody who's been watching us. But we'll round out the show probably shortly after this little conversation about Shackleton.
Yeah, well, they reckon that the survivors of Shackleton got in a small boat and they managed to sail 3,500 miles without a compass, pinpoint a dot in the ocean called Elephant Island. Okay, they found a small whaling station and called for help to get the Shackleton expedition out of there. So to me, that's alarm bells ringing. I can't imagine men in a boat being able to pinpoint a dot in the ocean. And find it whaling station as well. The stories are so unbelievable, magical, like fairy stories. Like Cook, I may go out for some time. I may be gone for some time. He walks out because he's such a gentleman. He chooses to die for his fellow man. But
did you ever see the Red Dwarf account of that? So
yes, of course.
So it's in an episode called Marooned, and essentially he gets told that story. I'm going out for a walk. I may be some time, and Rimmer says, well, how do we know that? It's from Scott's diary. He says, how do we know that Scott didn't bludgeon him over the head with a frozen husky and then eat him and then write that down while he's dabbing up his flesh with the last bit of gravy?
The thing is, the weather cleared in the morning. Apparently, they could visibly see a food dump a mile away. Okay. And then there's the magical story of Cook, Captain Scott, apparently finding Amundsen's flag in the centre of said continent. This little flag is put on a little pile of snow. There's photographs available. He's used apparently a compass and he's pinpointed a flag in the middle of a continent where they would tell you that the magnetic declination is shifting 150 miles that way or 200 miles that way or 100 miles that way on a daily basis. So if you were using a compass to pinpoint a flag, it would be completely impossible using the southern compass or a sextant or any technology of the day, and he would not be able to pinpoint. It would be like trying to find a little stone pillar in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Well, if they knew its location, they could have potentially used Dead Reckoning, couldn't they?
Well, not really if no one had ever been there, and it's first person and it's to him undiscovered territory. They were charting it as they were going. That's
what I'm saying. If you've been there before, you can Dead Reckon to it.
Yeah, but that's not if you haven't. They were cartographing as they were going, charting. A few of the ranges were named with after Captain Cook. Actually, if I go into Antarctica expeditions, I could be there for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, I think what we might do, Martin, because we've had so many drops of this phone call, we've got a good conversation, and we've definitely managed to cover all of the stuff that's happening in the UK and Europe and worldwide. So it's been a pretty diverse chat, I would have said. Come here, you. Plus, I've got to get this chicken to bed, so I'm gonna round out the show if it's good by you, Martin. So I'll say thank you to you first.
Thanks for the opportunity, Nathan. It's been real groovy.
No, as always, Martin, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. So thank you very, very much for being here. It's been a real pleasure.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks at the meet, Leamington Spa, Saturday, 22nd of July, guys.
Oh no, Martin, there is something we do need to go through. So there's going to be a Flat Earth conference, isn't there? I only found out about this yesterday.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, there's a Flat Earth conference in 2018. I mean, I've already inquired how I can get a ticket. I'd love to go. Awesome.
Yeah, well, the website's up and running, Nathan. It goes live on the 31st of July. You'll be able to buy tickets from then. I've got details. I got the website anyway, but it goes live on the 31st. I'll be able to buy tickets then. Yeah, it's next year, guys, on the 18th of April, I believe, the weekend of the 18th, around that time. But I'll have to double check. Myself, I'll be presenting. Dave Murphy, apparently Brian Nesbitt Nesbitt, or Darren Nesbitt, excuse me. Apparently 5 people Belgium, a guy from Holland, excuse me again. A guy that I've met from Spain called Oliver Ludlow, who's a really groovy flat earther from Spain. He's got like 62,000 subs, and he's a really interesting guy. And apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently it's finalised because everything's booked up and it's already happening. My hotel room and everything's booked. So Max Sargent and Morgile are coming over on the Saturday night apparently, and that's when I'll be on as well. So it's going to be a presentation, there'll be a big projection. I'm going to be helping out set that up because I have something like in the region of 5,000 images of flat earth, so I can help out with that. I'm going to need help with a bit of music as well, flat earth music. So we're organising it and we'll work together to make this happen. I've been working in the background for something like maybe 2 months on this now. The guy who's done it is a real cool guy, Gary. He organised this sort of thing before. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's had to put the cash up, you know. He's had to book the bloody big hotel with a conference room. You know, like I suppose he's had to pay for my room because the hotel room's there.
Was it Finland that he did the first? Because he'd actually done a flat earth, another flat earth convention, I think. And from memory, it was near Zoe. Or maybe not, I don't know if I'm getting the locations right. Can you remember exactly where he did his other flat earth conference?
Sorry? Yeah, he did one, I think he done one in Holland. Do you remember last year when Lord Stephen Christ turned up in a conference last year in Holland? Remember that? Yeah,
that's the same guy that organised that, right?
Yeah, he did. So, you know, he knows what he's doing. And he's, I like the guy. I think he's really above board sort of decent guy. I'm pleased that they approached me. But we've been working with this group. Karen Pittat, I can't pronounce the name actually, and her friends like Eternal Padwan, you know, the ones we met at Leicester Space Centre on a meet, they're part of the group, so they're working hard to make it all, you know, get it out there as well. But she had put a video out this morning because there was an argument on Facebook. Antonio unfortunately turned up and saying, "What are you touting this for? I'm going to have to find out from flat earthers whether this shit's true." Known about it for a little while, but I didn't want to announce it yet because it's too far in the future, and we got the US conference, you know, on the forefront of our minds.
And so, the massive event that will be the UK meet on Saturday the 22nd of July 2017, so this year in Leamington Spa. Of course, that's going to be absolutely amazing.
Nathan, loads to come in. I'm not kidding you. I must have had 20 more emails. I see you there. People like Left Hand Path, like Gem's going, obviously Jonathan Robert, and, you know, everybody's wanting to go. So everybody's welcome, guys. If you want to meet myself, Nathan, I think Patricia Steele's going to be there as well. Another YouTuber. It's going to be a real cool day. I know that for a fact. I'm looking.
Well, with that, while I've got a crying baby on my shoulder, I'm going to say one last thank you to you, Martin. So thank you very much. I'm going to cut you off and just round out and thank the audience. So thank you very much for being here. It's been a real pleasure, Martin.
I know what it is. It's been a pleasure as always. God bless, Eleanor. Bye, love. Bye.
See you soon, Martin.
God bless you.
Cut him off at the end of his sentence. Really sorry, Martin. So with that, I will say one last thank you to all of you who have joined us in the live chat. Thank you very much for being here. Be sure to like, share, subscribe and comment below. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.